Your nephew will have your apartment. He's getting married, Dad announced, passing my brother the emergency spare keys I'd given them. You can sleep on our couch, Mom chimed in. I simply nodded and walked away. 2 days later, they arrived with a moving truck. The building manager blocked them. This property is held in a trust. You're trespassing. When they called me, can you imagine sitting down to dinner with your family, only for your own father to casually announce he's giving your apartment away? Not asking, not discussing, but giving it away to your nephew, as if it were an extra dessert? The betrayal hit me like a gut punch, but what happened next? Oh, it was a masterpiece of boundaries, and my family completely underestimated me. Story: it was a Sunday, 6:12 p.m. The kitchen was warm, smelling faintly of roast. My dad, bless his heart, stood there, beaming, holding a small ring of keys. My keys. The spare set I'd given them for emergencies 3 years ago when I bought my building. He looked at my brother, Kyle, and declared, "Your nephew gets your apartment. He's getting married." Kyle, always the charmer, reached for them with that easy, confident grin of a man who'd already spent my money in his head. My mom, acting busy by the oven, heat blasting her face, chimed in, "You can crash on our couch for a bit," as if I should be grateful for my own displacement. I just nodded. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I didn't even ask why my name wasn't mentioned in a decision about my property. I walked out, got into my truck, and drove. My hands were steady on the wheel, but my mind was already racing, doing what it always does. Inventory, levers, access. By 7:03 p.m., I was in the quiet solitude of my restaurant's back lot, staring at a blank note on my phone. Change of access. Trust. Manager. Locks. Documentation. Right then, I decided I was done being their safety net. Let me rewind a bit. My name is Brandon, I'm 41, and I'm a chef. Not just any chef, an executive chef running 2 kitchens for a restaurant group. My title sounds fancy, but my work is grueling. My days start before most people have their first coffee and end long after they've gone to bed. I'm the guy who knows where the extra gloves are, how to fix the walk-in, and how to keep things running. Outside of work, I'm the spreadsheet guy, the contract guy, the auto-pay guy. The one who believes if we just plan better, life won't be so stressful. In my family, that translated to a different role. Brandon will handle it. Kyle, 2 years younger, is all flash and no follow-through. He's good at making promises, bad at keeping them, always between opportunities. And Evan, his son, is 24 now. Not a bad kid, but he grew up watching his dad get rescued. To Evan, rescue just felt normal, like gravity. My parents, I truly believe, love both of us. But they only respected one. Guess which one? When I was 33, after a quiet divorce, I bought a small 4-unit building. It wasn't glamorous, but it was smart. 3 units were rented, and I kept one empty. My silent space. An office, a landing pad, a place where silence was allowed. That empty unit, though, quickly became the star of my family's imagination. My dad clapped me on the back. "Look at you, you're set." My mom gushed. "So responsible." Kyle, of course, just said, "Man, must be nice." It started subtly. "Can Evan crash there for a weekend?" "Just an interview. Can't afford a hotel." I said yes. I gave my parents a spare key for emergencies because Dad liked to check on the place. Easier than fighting, I thought. That weekend turned into 3. Then Evan needed a month to save up. Then Kyle fought with his girlfriend and needed a reset. Every time, my parents used the same line. Family helps family. It sounds noble, doesn't it? Until you realize help only flows in one direction. I didn't mind helping, initially. I'm not made of stone. I've cooked extra meals for staff whose car got repossessed, paid a dishwasher's phone bill because his kid needed surgery. Helping isn't my problem. Entitlement is. The first real crack in the dam happened on a random Thursday. I was closing the kitchen, 10:47 p.m., when Kyle's loud, casual voice came through the phone. "Hey, quick thing, Evan's gonna stay at your unit for a bit." I asked, "Who told you that was happening?" Silence. Then my dad got on the line. It's fine, he insisted. Don't make a big deal out of it. It wasn't about Evan staying. It was my own father talking about my property, like he was assigning seats at a dinner table. I drove over after service. Midnight. Back door propped open with a trash can. The unit reeked of cheap cologne and microwave noodles. Evan was on my couch, shoes on, feet up, watching something loud. He barely looked up. Grandpa said it was cool. My blood ran cold. Was that it? My permission was optional because someone else gave it? I looked him in the eye, my voice calm. Evan, next time, you text me directly. If it's my place, it's my call. He nodded, as if I'd asked him to recycle. 2 weeks later, an email from my property insurance provider. We have been notified of additional occupants. Please confirm primary occupancy and update tenant roster. Someone had listed him as a tenant. When I asked my mom, she laughed. Oh, I just called them to make sure he was covered. You worry too much. That night, I opened my laptop and started a folder. Building access/occupancy. Screenshots, emails, dates, times. Because here's what nobody tells you about family entitlement. It thrives in vagueness. Make it specific, and it starts to die. Then came the wedding announcement. Evan was engaged to Tessa. They wanted a wedding in 8 months. Ambitious if you have savings, delusional if you don't. Kyle started calling me more. Not directly for money. Never directly, that would require dignity. He'd just ask things like, how much is it to rent a venue? Is open bar really necessary? My mom started sending me links. Look at this place. Evan deserves a good start. Then, like clockwork, my dad hit me with his classic line. Well, you're the stable one. My policy was firm. I don't fund weddings. I'll give a gift, I'll show up, I'll smile. But I won't become the silent sponsor of someone else's fantasy. So I told them, I'll contribute a gift, but I'm not paying for the wedding. My mom's voice went instantly cold. We're not asking you to pay. 2 days later, my bank app flashed a notification. New request on your account. Add authorized user, Evan Harrison. I stared at it, frozen. A prank? I called the bank. The rep sounded genuinely concerned. Sir, someone attempted to add a user using your personal verification questions. They had my mother's maiden name, my first car, the street I grew up on. My family had given them everything. That night, I changed everything. Passwords, security questions, 2-factor authentication. I froze my credit. I didn't tell them. Not yet. The pattern was glaringly obvious now. They weren't forgetting to ask me. They were testing the limits of what they could take without permission. If I didn't draw a line, one would be drawn for me. The empty unit became a constant talking point at every family gathering. 4th of July, my aunt asked, So, Brandon, excited to have the kids in your place? The kids? My mom jumped in. Oh, Evan and Tessa will probably start there, just until they get settled. I looked at her. That's not the plan. She blinked, offended. Well, it makes sense. There it was again. Not, can we talk about it? Not, would you consider it? Just, it makes sense. In their version of the story, my resources were family resources. In mine, my resources were the result of 70-hour weeks, burned hands, missed weekends, and saying no to things they said yes to. The erosion wasn't just financial. It was personal. It was the way my dad introduced me. This is Brandon, he owns a building. Not, he's a chef. As if the building was my identity. As if it was the only reason I was useful. It was the way Kyle talked about the unit like it was already theirs. We'll paint it after the wedding. We'll get new furniture. We'll swap the locks. He said that last one casually at brunch. I set my fork down. Swap the locks? Kyle grinned. For safety, New chapter. My mom nodded. It's normal, honey. Something in my chest went quiet. I wasn't angry. I wasn't cruel. I was just done. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, replaying conversations like security footage. How many times had I mistaken their confidence for love? How many times had I called it family closeness when it was really just access? At 4:47 a.m., I opened my laptop and pulled up my property documents. And I found the lever I'd been ignoring. The building wasn't in a trust. It was in my name, which meant my family's access was entirely based on keys and assumptions.
Keys I could change.
Assumptions I could break. On Monday, I met with Denise, an attorney specializing in real estate. I brought a folder, literally tabs, deed, mortgage, insurance, screenshots of that bank request, even a photo of the spare key ring in my dad's hand from Facebook. Denise looked at everything, then at me. "You're not here because you hate them," she said gently. "You're here because they don't understand ownership." I exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for a year. We set up the Harrison Property Trust. Not to hide assets, but to manage it like one. A professional trustee, my existing property management firm as manager. Formal policies. No occupancy without a written lease. No keys without trustee approval. No temporary stays over 72 hours. Any attempted forced entry? Trespass notice. I called Marco, my building manager. He's the kind of guy who wears a neat polo, knows every tenant, and doesn't get emotionally involved.
Perfect.
I told him, I need to change access.
He didn't ask why.
He asked for dates and details. On Wednesday at 8 a.m., a locksmith changed every exterior lock. New deadbolts, new keyway, and new fob system. $1,146. I have the receipt. At 8:42 a.m., a text from my mom. "Why isn't my key working?" Smiley face. That smiley face made my jaw tighten more than any insult. I didn't respond. At 9:10 a.m., I emailed my parents. "Spare keys are no longer valid. Please don't attempt to access the unit. For emergencies, contact Marco." Simple. Professional. Boring. Boring, I realized, is a boundary's best friend. I asked Denise, "What happens if they show up anyway?" She just said, "Then they learn what trespass means." I wasn't planning to destroy them. I was planning to stop letting them destroy me. The confrontation was inevitable. I just wanted it on paper, not in emotional motion. I knew exactly when it would happen because Evan's wedding timeline had a deadline. They'd need the apartment, they'd announce it, and dare me to object. So, I prepared for that moment like I prepare for Saturday dinner service. Prep everything, label everything, keep the heat controlled. The scene happened sooner than I expected. 2 days after the key change, Kyle called. "Hey," he chirped, "we're moving Evan into your place Friday." I was staring at the prep schedule in my office. "No," I said, "you're not."
He laughed.
"Dude, Dad already said yes." I paused, not for drama, but to ensure my voice stayed level. "Kyle, Dad doesn't own it." His tone sharpened. "So, you're really going to do this to family?" "I'm not doing anything to anyone," I said. "I'm managing my property." He hung up. Friday morning, 9:18 a.m. My phone rang. "Marco." "Brandon, there's a moving truck. 2 men. One says he's the father of the tenant." I asked, "Do they have a lease?" Marco didn't pause.
"No."
"Then follow protocol," I said. I heard him exhale. Understood. I stayed on the line. I heard voices. Kyle's, loud and demanding. Evan's, nervous, trying to smooth things over. Then a third voice, my dad, arriving late, acting like he was in charge. Marco spoke, calm and clear. "Gentlemen, this property belongs to a trust. I can't allow entry without authorization. You are trespassing." Kyle snapped. "It's my brother's building. He said we could." Marco cut him off, not rude, but firm. "I have the trustee's instructions in writing. If you don't leave, I will call the police for a trespass report." Then my dad's angry voice. "Put Brandon on the phone." Marco replied, "He's not required to speak with you." My phone buzzed.
Calls.
Voicemails. Texts. "Dad, call me now." "Mom, what is happening?" "Kyle, you're actually sick." I didn't respond. I waited, still on the line with Marco, until the moving truck started backing up. Marco said quietly, "They're leaving."
"Thank you," I said.
"Please email me the incident summary." He replied, already drafting. At 10:06 a.m., my parents showed up at my restaurant. Not in the dining room, but barging through the back like they owned the place. My sous chef, Dana, gave me that. Are we calling someone? Look, I told her. 5 minutes. We went into my small office. My dad didn't sit. He stood over my desk, practically towering. What did you do? He demanded. I protected my property, I said. My mom's eyes were already wet. Brandon, why are you being like this? That line. As if I'd woken up and decided to be difficult for fun. Kyle stormed in after them. Evan, smart kid, wasn't there.
Kyle pointed at me.
You embarrassed Dad in front of everyone. I looked at him. No one was embarrassed. They were stopped from entering a property they don't own. Dad slammed his hand on my bookshelf, not violent, just loud. We raised you, he thundered. And this is how you repay us? I leaned back in my chair. The thing that bothered me wasn't you asking for help, I said evenly. It was you giving away something that isn't yours. Mom whispered. It was just an apartment. I nodded. Exactly. Just an apartment, and you still couldn't respect one boundary around it.
Kyle scoffed.
So what? You made a trust now? You think you're some billionaire? I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a folder. Denise had told me to keep it simple. I slid one page across the desk. Certification of trust. Then another. Property management agreement. Then another. Trespass protocol notice. My dad's eyes tracked the papers. His face changed in slow motion. Not guilt, not understanding. Calculation. Mom read the first line and looked up, her voice sharp. You did this behind our backs. I did it because you were making decisions behind mine, I said. Kyle laughed. A sharp, bitter sound. This is petty. I shook my head. It's not petty. It's structured. Dad tried a new angle.
Softer.
Brandon. Evan is starting his life. You have 4 units. You don't even use that one. I don't owe my unused space to anyone, I replied. Mom's voice cracked. So, where are they supposed to go? I didn't bite. I didn't argue about their options. I just stated the truth. They should rent a place like adults, where you can help them. You offered the couch. Kyle snapped. That was temporary. I looked at him. So, was Evan staying in my unit until it wasn't? Silence. Dad's jaw clenched. In our family, we don't do legal threats. My voice was flat. In my life, I do paperwork when people don't listen to words. Kyle leaned forward. So, you're really going to let your nephew start his marriage on a couch? I met his eyes, calm, cool. Then go join them. He blinked. He'd never heard someone say no without apologizing. I stood up and opened my office door.
We're done, I said.
Do not come to my workplace again. If you want to talk, you email me. Dad stared at me like he didn't recognize me. Maybe he didn't, because the old version of me would have folded right there. But I wasn't that guy anymore. Not revenge. Just boundaries. The next 72 hours were a greatest hits album of manipulation. Anger first. Kyle sent 23 texts in a row. You're dead to me. Dad's blood pressure is high because of you. You always thought you were better than us. Then guilt. My mom left a voicemail at 11:38 p.m., whispering like she was in a hospital. I don't know who you are anymore, Brandon. Then pity. Dad emailed me a photo of himself sitting at the kitchen table, a handwritten note beside him. Family is all we have. No apology, no acknowledgement. Just a slogan. Then the smear campaign, lightly disguised as concern. My aunt messaged me. Are you okay? Your mom says you're having a breakdown. I replied with one sentence. I'm fine. Please don't contact me about this. Marco emailed me the incident report, time-stamped, objective. 2 individuals attempted access without lease. Refused to leave initially. Departed after trespass protocol stated. Denise sent her follow-up. Good job staying calm. Do not engage in emotional arguments. Keep everything in writing. I blocked Kyle's number for a week. I didn't block my parents, not because I was soft, but because I wanted documentation. I replied to my dad's email with 3 lines. I'm not discussing this in person. The unit is not available. If you attempt entry again, the management company will file a report. That was it. No debate, no emotional essay. They wanted a fight they could describe to others. They wanted me to look unstable, cruel, dramatic. I gave them nothing. Eventually, Evan reached out. A single text, "Uncle Brandon, can we talk? Just you and me." I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop. He showed up alone, eyes tired, no anger, just confusion and embarrassment. I didn't know they were doing it like that, he admitted. I believed him. "If you want a place," I told him, "I'll help you find one. I'll even review the lease. I'll tell you what deposits are normal, what fees are scams. But you don't start a marriage by taking something that isn't yours." He swallowed. "Dad said you promised." I said, "I promised your grandparents a spare key for emergencies. That's all." He nodded slowly, like a child realizing his story was fake. "Are you cutting everyone off?" he asked. I thought about it. "I'm cutting off access, not love," I said. "If they can respect that, we can have a relationship." He didn't answer right away. Then he said quietly, "I don't think they know how." That might have been the saddest thing anyone said in this whole mess. 9 months later, the building is still mine. Still boring, still solid. The trust runs smoothly. Tenants pay rent through the portal. Maintenance requests get handled without phone calls to my mother. I renovated that empty unit into a small office, a place for me to decompress after long shifts. New desk, simple couch, a cheap record player. Some nights, I sit there with a beer and let silence just be silence. My finances are cleaner, too. No family support line items disguised as kindness. No unexpected access requests. No panic calls about just bridging this month. Kyle and I don't talk. That's his choice. My parents send the occasional neutral message about the weather or holidays, like nothing happened. In their version of the story, I betrayed them. In mine, I stopped participating in a system where my role was resource, not person. Here's what I learned, really learned. If someone can give away what's yours without asking, they don't see it as yours. And if they don't see it as yours, they won't respect it until paperwork forces them to. I'm not proud that it came to this. But I'm proud I didn't explode. I didn't beg. I didn't perform. I just changed the locks, changed the structure, and kept cooking my life forward, one day at a time. Not revenge. Just boundaries. Call to action. If you've ever been this stable one in your family, you already know stability attracts hands. Your job is to decide which hands get to hold on. What would you have done in my place? Have you ever had to draw a line like this with your own family? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to know.